Hey, it's me, Mickey. Welcome to Mickey Unlimited. Anyways, I'm gonna do this my testimony situation. I've been feeling really called to share this, and I keep putting it off because I'm like, oh, I'll do it this day, I'll do it this time, whatever. Things keep coming up, and then I was like, okay, if things in the next few days kind of cancel, then I'll do it. And things have been canceling and I'm like, okay. And then I keep getting kind of like lazy and I just want to chill and I just want to hang out. I just want to kind of scroll on my phone and watch YouTube videos. And then I've been seeing like, oh, new age, more new age testimony stuff and how like new age is causing a lot of God's people to, I don't know, like go astray. And I was one of them. And I just feel like I just want to get this message out. Um, and I don't know how it's gonna come out. I probably won't edit this. So it's gonna be very chatty, very chill. I've already been talking for almost a couple minutes and yeah, anyways, I don't know how long this is gonna be. I honestly can't remember a lot of timing wise on things. I don't know if I'm gonna forget stuff. I don't know if I will leave certain things out. If I do, it'll be on accident. Maybe I'll make a follow up. But yeah, so I was in the new age occult witchcraft situation for the last like 10 at least years. Like I said, I don't remember perfect timing of a lot of this stuff. I also think that I've grown up fairly anxious and depressed for like a long time and it's possible, and don't quote me on this, I don't know a lot, like a ton about anxiety and depression, but I think that has affected my memory possibly of like I just don't remember a lot. I don't know if I've like blocked things out or I was just so like dissociated for different parts of my life that I can't even honestly remember half of it. I also used to smoke a lot of weed in high school, so that might also affect some certain times in my life. But anyways, I was born in Southern California and then my family moved to Washington, in a city. It's like a little bit south of Seattle when I was a baby. So I grew up in Washington State till I was about 8 years old, somewhere in there. And then we moved back to Southern California. So my dad was born and raised in Washington. My mom born in California and traveled a lot around the country when she was a kid, but she's pretty much like a California girl. My dad used to be a pastor, so I was born and raised in the church. I as much as I can remember being a kid in the church, I loved it. I had a great time. I remember running around the church. I remember Bible study. Well, like as a kid, I remember vacation Bible school. Yeah, just worship. I remember the IMSCHRISTIAN, that whole thing, and grew up watching The Prince of Egypt, Veggie Tales, all that stuff. I was born in 95, so yeah. I don't know if that even matters for this. But anyways, yeah, I had a great time in the church when I was a kid. Like I said, around age 8, my family moved back to Southern California. And then I remember going to church a little bit, like when we were kids after that, but we kind of just tapered off going to church when we moved to California. My dad stopped being a pastor. Our whole family just kind of stopped going to church, at least my parents and me, and I, and then I have 2 sisters. So yeah, we just kind of like slowly tapered off. And I remember going to some youth group stuff on and off when I was in middle school, probably around like 12, 13. And then I think I was probably going for maybe a year around that, probably not longer than that. So this is around the time that I kind of can't remember a lot of stuff. Like I remember a lot of random stuff. Like my mind will it'll hold on to all these random memories, inside jokes, all that stuff. But as far as like, I don't know, maybe that's not abnormal. I really like, I'm not sure. Um, but yeah, I remember really liking youth group. I had some friends that went, and I loved I've always loved worship as far as I can remember. I love music and I love singing. And I remember feeling, I'm assuming the Holy Spirit probably, while I worshiped. I definitely had like a feeling of, I know that there's something out. I know there's God, there's somebody or something bigger than I am. And then I went through a lot of depression in middle school. We had just moved to the San Diego County where I am at now. In middle school, I didn't know anyone. It was kind of hard. I had really good times in middle school and high school and stuff, but I went through a lot of depression on and off. Most of my middle school is probably really depressed. Actually, most of high school I was really depressed too. But anyways, yeah, I know in like 11th grade, I think I went to church a little bit. Other than that, I haven't been religious or anything. Um, I I don't remember exactly when I got into the new age stuff. I know I finally watched Harry Potter in like 5th grade and I loved it. I loved that like magical feeling. Spells were like really enticing and kind of like, oh, what is that? Like just really intriguing and alluring. And if you've gone through that, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. Kind of that like draw that he who must not be named kind of gets you with. It kind of just like creeps in for some of us. I remember trying to like do little spells on somebody else in 5th grade too. Just it was kind of just like fun, like, oh, let's pretend we're witches, let's pretend we're casting spells. And we were like crunching up it was me and one of my friends, like we were crunching up these like our chips in a bag, and then like as we were shaking it, like kind of like saying the little spell about the person, which I feel like is very, very much actual spell work. If you know, it's when you go through that, they say it's all about intention. So it kind of doesn't matter what tools you use and what you have. It's more so like your intention behind it and then the words you speak, which you'll know if you read any of the Bible or you hear people talk about the Bible. There is power of life and death in the tongue, and like what we say actually is really powerful. And so that was kind of my first little dabbling, I guess, if you can even say that, because I was a baby. I didn't really know what I was doing or talking about in 5th grade. Yeah, I thankfully didn't have any church hurt that I can remember or think of. So nothing ever crazy happened to me in the church to make me run away from it or stop going. It just kind of happened. And then I just remember at some point, probably in high school, watching that movie, Sleepy Hollow, with Johnny Depp and Christina Ricci or Ricci, however you say that, and seeing the mother of him like getting persecuted for being a witch, essentially, or was it her mom? I can't remember, but. And then they were saying like, oh, she's a child of the universe. And my mind was just like, oh my gosh, that's so me. Like, I don't necessarily believe in God, like a specific God, but I'm definitely like, oh, nature, universe, like I definitely believe in that. And I've never thought that there wasn't something bigger than me or something. I always just kind of thought, well, I'm pretty sure there is something. I don't know what it is, but I kind of was just like, oh, it's just the universe. And I know that's what so many people say, and I'm still hearing a lot of people I say know that. And I would say that too, I never really got super into like specific deities, although I learned a lot and I would be super interested. And this was over the last like 10, 15. I'm just throwing out a number that's kind of somewhat close, give or take, to how long I was into this stuff. So yeah, from there, I just started kind of researching randomly, like Wicca and Celtic paganism, or Norse paganism, I guess. Different types. I have Irish and Scottish and like a bunch of English like background in my ethnicity. So just super interested in that, what's that all about? What kind of deities are there? I don't know. There's this whole thing and it's called the armchair occultist. If you've heard of that, it's kind of where you just, you learn a lot, but you never get up out of the armchair. You're just in there reading about it. And that's kind of how I feel that I was most of the time during my whole new age witchy kind of identity, I guess. And to be completely honest, I'm actually really thankful for that because I don't know, I kind of chalk it up to I think that I was maybe like extra protected from a lot of things in that where it could have gone so much worse than it did for me. And I've listened to so many New Age to Jesus testimonies where people like, they really get into some crazy things. And I know everyone has a different journey, and I'm not trying to be judgy about that at all because I get it. And I haven't been there in a lot of cases, but I've been there. So it's like, and who am I to judge, But I'm just very grateful that there are so many things that I didn't do and I didn't go down the path of. However, there were times where I wondered if I was worshiping Satan or glorifying him extra, like rather than just, oh, I'm just interested in crystals because I loved crystals too. And I did even go down kind of like, oh, well, this certain one does this. And like, if you hold this with you, then it attracts this kind of energy. I honestly have forgotten a ton of that information. Thankfully, I just don't even really think about it. I ended up, well, I'll get to this later. But anyways, yeah, I just, from probably like 2012-ish to like this year, so it's September 1st when I'm recording this, till like probably April or May-ish of this year, 2024. So that's like 12 years-ish of, just really, really being interested in witchcraft and learning a lot, not doing a whole ton of stuff. I'm trying to think of like spell wise what I did try to do. I mean, there's this whole like concept of energy work where you're trying to manipulate like certain outcomes using just like intention and like your energy that you're putting out, kind of like what goes around comes around, like what you put out, you get back in, which I think to a certain extent it's like true, if you have a more positive outlook, then it's definitely more likely you're going to notice things more positively. You're going to just kind of have a more positive outlook or whatever. I think that I just said the same thing over, but I don't know if this makes sense. Anyways, there were times where I did do like a binding spell on somebody, and I think that is just really bad. I was just kind of like, oh, like let this person be mine and I'm theirs, and I honestly don't remember because this was like 10 years ago or something kind of crazy, and I really wish that I had never done that because it's just messed up, and you never want to like try to like have somebody else's will like control other people. And I've never actually like wanted that. I would never want to try to control somebody else, and I know that I can't even do that. Especially now, it's like only God is in control. So, but I'm trying to think. Yeah, I didn't do anything too crazy, thankfully. I definitely think I tried to like manifest rain and storms and stuff like that. I don't know, just kind of like pretty simple, like harmless kind of things. But at the same time, it is trying to make yourself a god in a certain ways. Like you're trying to control things that you have no control over because we just don't. That's not in us. That's only in God. So yeah, there were certain times like I went to there's this one band that I listened to probably a few years ago. I think it was 2020 even, like right before the thing happened. Um I was listening to this band and they were definitely satanic. I'm not sure if the band members were like practicing Satanists or not, but um definitely a lot of their songs were like yeah, just blatantly satanic, and I loved that band, and we went to go see them, and I was, like very much like yeah, singing along and all this stuff, and some of the lyrics were like looking back, I'm like, bro, I was like worshiping Satan in a way, I think. And I'm not like completely sure, and that wasn't necessarily my intention, but I guess if you're not if you're not with God, then you're automatically against him, essentially. So I guess I was. But there were times where I've always been like, I don't want to hurt anyone. I'm just, and even with the occult stuff, I was more on the side of like, not necessarily always trying to like just get something I want all the time. Like, I was thinking, oh, well, I can give these people these crystals and it will help with their healing. And I would always try to be like encouraging and want to be healing for others and stuff, not always like for my own gain. And I've always like loved animals and bugs, and like I don't want to hurt. I wouldn't say I would never hurt a fly because I don't really like flies. But you know what I'm saying? I would always try to like save spiders in the house instead of killing them or whatnot. So it's like I definitely have a heart for people and living things and stuff. But there were times when I could feel underneath where I'm like, I feel like an evil presence like trying to take over. And I would have there were a few times where I'm like, I feel like evil underneath inside of me. And I never wanted to hurt people, but or anything like that. I don't think I had anything super crazy, but I could just feel this like it was like trying to like have its grasp on me. And then there was this other feeling of like, no, that's not me, and I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be in this. And almost like I've said this to some people where it's like almost like I'm too pure for this, and not in a I'm pure because I'm still human and I am a sinner and that's just part of us. Like not in a I'm perfect, I'm pure, not like that at all, or that I'm better than these people because like, oh, I'm whatever. It was never like that, but it like I said, it's more of like I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be somewhere else. I'm supposed to be like on the light, not in the dark, if that makes sense. So I had that kind of like fight, I guess, internally, and maybe that was, that fight over my soul. I'm not completely sure, and I'm still so new to this as an adult. So I'm trying to think of if there's anything else, because I'm probably going to remember stuff after I put this out and be like, dang it, I don't remember. Oh, well, okay. I don't know if any of you are coming from or have seen. Well, I'm sure that you have. If you're somebody that knows me and you've watched my other stuff, or you know me in the past several years and you've seen what I've gone through and you've seen this transformation. I've been super, well, not really anymore, but I was super into like the paranormal and ghost hunting and stuff. I've been interested in like creepy stories, ghost stories, paranormal since I was a kid too. Probably honestly around 5th grade, at least that I can remember. But I had a paranormal like channel, and actually I think it's still there. I might have one video up. But it's called the Spooky Baby Society. It was interviewing people about paranormal experiences, and then I have done like a tiny bit of ghost hunting, but I was super interested in ghost hunting. I would watch shows and all these YouTube videos. And there were points where I got the seance book and I tried to have my own seance, and like I tried to do automatic writing, and I thankfully like didn't really get too much of this. And I think that this also comes into where I feel like I was extra protected, but throughout all that time that I was really into their paranormal, I didn't, at least as far as I know, I don't feel like I had any like demonic presences or like anything super scary. Like I didn't have a ton of super scary stuff happen. I had sometimes like creepy feeling of like, oh, I feel like maybe I'm being watched. I don't know. But there's also, for certain things, there is like scientific debunk, whatever, around certain things like feeling watched. I don't know. That's a whole other thing. But I know I've heard people that open these doors that have crazy things happen, like crazy spiritual things or like demonic things like happen to them after they open these doors. And as far as I know, or that like I could really feel, that didn't really happen to me. So praise God. I feel like really I've been protected from a lot of things that otherwise could have gone way more wrong than they did, at least as far as I can remember and have noticed. So yeah, so like I said, it's September 2024. In April of 2018, I got married, and things were, I don't know, it was never perfect, obviously, but they seemed great, and I don't want to get too into this because it's still during the process, and I'm not here to like bag on anyone or like do an expose on anyone. And I'm sure a lot of you that will see this already kind of know the situation. But my husband left in, I think, the end of March of this year. We started having some issues. Things were just not going well, and he left. He moved out, and that was, I mean, I've had, like I mentioned, the depression and anxiety, and part of that was one of our issues that I left I never, it's not like I was pretending it like it wasn't there, but I didn't really get the help that I needed until it was too late in a way, although it's never too late. And if any of you are side quest right here, if any of you are going through anxiety and depression and you're able to, I definitely recommend therapy, and at the very least talking to somebody. I had a really hard time finding a therapist during this. I was like scrambling. Insurance was really hard. I called like probably 50 people and got barely, I maybe got 10 responses, and most of them were, oh, this isn't a practice anymore, or oh, like we're booked up, or I found one person that I was able to go to, and I still go to her right now. But anyways, or even if you feel like you have no one else or you don't have the resources right now, comment on this video. I will try to respond. I don't know how many people will watch this, and I don't have like a lot of subscribers on this channel, but I will be there for you at the very least. You can cry out to God. I'm trying to think of two, but if you're able to, I highly recommend getting a therapist, and somebody that's like trained in, listening and detecting certain things in anxiety and depression. So, I know it's a very serious issue, and yeah. So anyways, that was one of the things that I left too unchecked for too long. And it definitely brought things out. I was living in a lot of fear, and I honestly didn't even realize a lot of this. And I didn't realize so many of my issues or how serious things were until it was too late, essentially. So, but anyways, I was in a very messy spot in like my just everything. Like my heart was broken, and more broken than it's ever been before. And this has been a really weird and hard situation. I won't get like super into it or anything. I was hurting, and I hurt the person that I thought I would never hurt, and I was hurt in a way that I thought I would never be hurt. And it's not black and white, it's super gray. We both have things that we need to work on. I'm working through mine. And I take full responsibility for what the things that I've done, and I'm working on those things, and which I will get into. But having Jesus in my life has literally like brought me through so much, and I'm still, it's so crazy. I thought I would never be here. But anyways, my husband leaving, that was the end of March. It was Easter weekend, and I can't even remember exactly when, but I think probably a couple weeks later, I set up a time to meet up with one of my friends that I used to work with, and I know she's a Christian, and we had talked a little bit about that, I think, at some point before, and she hadn't worked where I work for probably a year or so. And so I went to her house, and I ended up telling her like the situation that was going on, and I don't remember if she invited me or if I asked to go. I feel like I asked to go, but I was like, hey, can I go to church with you sometime? And for some reason, like all this stuff happening, I was very distraught and just like confused. And I've never felt the way that I did before, like truly the most hurt and like depressed and sad that I've ever felt. And I was like, I need to go to church. I need to be around church people. Like, and I know not all church people are actually, not all Christians are actually Christians. And I totally get that. And I was just like, I don't even care about that right now. Like, I feel like I just need to go to church and be around church people. So she said, yeah. And I went with her to this young adults night that they have during the week. And I don't know, I think it was at maybe the second time that I went to that the first time I went, I knew that one of my other old coworkers went there too. So I went and I saw her and I was like, hey. And then also I look over by the like sound booth, or like the little, where they click the slides to go for the lyrics while they do worship. I look over and there's another one of my old coworkers that I had really gotten along with, and we saw each other across the room, and we were like, oh my gosh. And I was like, I didn't know this is the church that you went to, because she had talked about it when she worked where I work. And then I look over, and at somewhere else also like working was one of my best friends from high school that actually lives in the house with me, her younger brother that I hadn't seen in a while. And I knew that he worked at a church and volunteered at churches, but I didn't know that that was one that he worked at. So I was like, you go here too? So I showed up, and I not only knew two people that went, but there were another like two people that also went there, that I was like, what the heck? Like, this is so cool. So I'm just like, dude, like God sprinkled these people into my life way before I even started going here, and super crazy. So I think it was probably the second time I went, maybe the third time. Okay, sorry, backtracking a little bit again. On the first time I went with my one friend that I had gone to her house and asked her to go to church with her, on our way to this young adults night, the first time I went, we were talking about God, and I was like, yeah, like I just don't really, I know that there's something bigger than us, but I just can't see it being like some guy up in the sky. Like, I don't know. I don't really believe that. And then probably about a month later, at one of these young adults nights, they're asking, who wants to, like, bow your heads, nobody's looking, like, close your eyes, but raise your hand if you want to give your life to Jesus. And my hand just goes up, I'm just like, you know what? I was brought here for a reason. I probably wasn't even thinking that hard about this at the time, but I'm just like, this is it. I've looked through all these different new age things, all these different kind of faiths, nature, I don't know, just a bunch of different things that I had kind of dabbled in. And I'm just like, I tried everything. And to be honest, my anxiety never got better. My depression never got better. And if you listen to other New Age to Jesus testimonies, I will just add into this, like add me to the list, because most, if not all of them that I've heard, when they come from the New Age, it's like there's just one extra thing. There's one more retreat, one more thing you have to buy, one more class, one more this, one more that. And like it never ends. Like it's a lot of them have said this exact thing. It's like a never ending hamster wheel. And you just never actually get anywhere. You don't actually get the healing that you need. And in fact, most of the time it gets worse. And they say this too with like spirits and spirit guides and all that, where it's like, even if it's like an ancestral spirit, which I got kind of into in certain times, where it's like, oh, I'll give offerings to my ancestors. Coming to Christianity is like, no, you're not supposed to like mess with the dead. You're not supposed to commune with the dead. And all those spirits, like they, and thankfully I don't really have much experience with this because I never really felt like I connected specifically with any spirits. So also thank you, God, for that. But I know people who have, and the people that talk about it in their testimonies, you know, it's like, it's great until it's not. And then they turn on you and it's actually demonic spirits. And that hasn't been my experience, thankfully, like I said, but you know, so many people have said this that actually have gone through that, where it's like they turn on you. It's all love and light, and then it turns at whatever point. At some point, it always turns, and that's like the deception, right, of the New Age and of Satan, how he disguises himself as an angel of light. And so that's like what they say, and what I have come to believe now too, where it's like these things present themselves as love and light and healing until they show their true colors, which is not. And ultimately it's trying to get you so far away from God that you just don't even know. And like you're just convinced that like, well, God isn't real. Either God isn't real, or like, no, there's this over here. And something that when I was more into that, I was like, well, even if I go to hell, which is like, some people would be like, oh my gosh, it's so, at least at the time when I was in the New Age myself, I'd be like, oh, these people are just like trying to guilt trip me, or like they're just so fear-based that like, but whatever, if I go to hell, like whatever, like I know I won't be alone. Like it's probably not that bad, you know, it's probably all of the things that we think about here that like are good, but like bad, but like still fun and good. Like it's probably just going to be like that. And then when you hear people's testimonies of seeing hell, or like going there, like being shown and stuff like that, and then the description in the Bible, weeping and gnashing of teeth, like people's testimonies, like I'm not really going to talk much about that, but it's not, and other people will say this too, it's not a party with your friends. And when I heard people say that, I'm like, oh, that's kind of like how I thought it would be, you know? Yeah, it's like dark and evil, but like, okay, it can't be that bad, but like, no. It's like probably like what you would think if you're really thinking of like as bad as you can. It's probably a lot worse than what we can even imagine. Just like heaven is so much better than we could imagine, and what God does for us is and will be better than we could even imagine. And I think God, his grace and his mercy and his love, you know, I'm still learning so much of this, and I'm still going through a period of like trying not to work for my salvation, or like, well, if I do this enough, or if I do enough of these things, then God will love me enough, or then I'll be good enough not to go to hell, or whatever. It's like, I think that his love, mercy, and grace are so much more than we can fathom at all, and he is unlimited. So it's like we are so teeny tiny compared to the creator of literally everything. So like who am I to say that, you know, somebody, you know, could lead a super wicked life till the very end? I don't know how they're going to be judged. I don't know, you know, God is a is a judge. He is the judge. He's a God of love and mercy, but he's also just. So he says, I will have mercy on who I will have mercy, and I won't, like, the wicked will not go I forget exactly, but you get what I'm saying. He won't leave the wicked unpunished. So, like, he's not just gonna be like, oh, well, whatever. But I think that there is also, like, I don't know, there's that side of where I can't even imagine how merciful he is, probably coming from, like, how, I would be for somebody who, like, did the unthinkable to me. But anyways, it's now September, so it's been a few months, and I will say that I have not had, I did have suicidal ideation. I was trying to think of the word ideation. Probably, like, at least since middle school. I can't remember exactly when that started, but I've had that throughout my whole adult life, throughout marriage, and not because of anything. My husband was great. I have nothing bad against that, but I have my own depression and anxiety, and, like, I would just, even if things were, going pretty well, I would have these thoughts creep in and be like, well, you're not actually good enough. Like, you're never really gonna amount to anything. Like, why even bother trying? Like, it's not gonna work out, or, like, all these things. I would sometimes get in these modes where I would, like, imagine my own funeral and imagine, what people would think, or, like, I don't know, just, I would sometimes think about, like, how I would do something, but I would always be like, well, I'm never actually gonna do anything because, I don't have the guts, for one, but also I'm like, I just, that's not right. I just had this innate, like, no, I'm just not gonna do that. But, like, I would imagine it, I would think about it, I would, be like, well, does it really matter if I'm here or not? Like, I had so many times on and off throughout being in middle school and high school and college, and yeah, even the last, like, 8 or 9 years, or yeah, 7 or 8 years being out of college, even just, like, why am I even here? Like, what's the point? Like, I know people love me, but I don't know. I don't feel like I really belong here, and I've always felt like I was different and didn't belong anywhere. And now it's like, I know that I am a child of God, and he loves me so much, and he loves you so much, and there's a reason why he made you, and he knows you before you're even born. He knows your entire life. And to hear those things and, like, really start to believe it is just like, I have so much more of a purpose, and, like, I don't know everything I'm going to do yet with God, but anyways, I'm trying to think of too, like, what else to say. This is starting to become 40 minutes, so I don't want to make this too much longer, but I'm trying to think of, what I can share that I've learned so far. It's only been a few months, so bear with me. I am still really new, and I don't want to, like, lead anyone astray. I don't want to give any wrong information, but I'm just telling my story. I started going to this other Bible study with girls who surf and skate, and I skate a bit, nothing crazy, but these girls have been just so sweet and so loving. And going to this new church, it's like I'm meeting new people every single week. I was going to that young adults night. I'm in 2 different Bible study groups. Just going to different events and serving more and being less about myself and thinking, how can I serve others? And just, working for others instead of myself, in a way, if that makes sense. So that's been something that Jesus has helped me so much with, is just getting out of myself and focusing on others and keeping myself in check in that, and being like, okay, am I being too selfish? Am I kind of, like, serving myself too much? Okay, how can I serve others and be there for others, and, like, really listen to others and really care about them, instead of, just caring about myself. And there was a lot of that where I was, like, not even overly aware, or sometimes I would be, but maybe I didn't care. I was just selfish, one thing that I will say, like, I live with my parents, and my husband and I were both living with my parents, so that's been a blessing too. But I'm still with them, and there were so many times where, my parents would be like, "Hey, can you help out with the dishes?" And I'm just like, I don't want to do that. Like, oh, like, just have such a bad attitude for just helping with little things. And since what happened with my marriage, I realized that, like, why am I grumbling about this? Like, this doesn't even matter. Like, even if I'm tired, I can spare like 5 minutes of my time to like do something nice for my parents that love me and are supporting me through the hardest time of my life. And like, looking back, I'm like, I was so poopy toward people. It's like in these little things, and just having a bad attitude at work, like letting all these like certain things just get to me and get me like riled up, or just make me like, I don't want to do this. But there's certain scriptures, do things without grumbling, like serve with a happy heart, and you're not just serving these people, you're ultimately serving God. So do things as if you're serving Him. Like, I'll think about that, doing small things like chores, like sweeping or whatever. It's like I could half-ass it. Sorry. But instead of doing that, and I'm not always great at this. Sometimes I am just so tired, I don't do things as well as I could. But it's changed in me. I'm not perfect, and I'm not trying to be, and I'm not trying to like pretend that I am, but I'm trying more than I was before, just in general, just to be like a better version of myself, to be a better helper, to be less selfish. But I could, sweep one little corner and then be done with it. But, I'm like, then I think, but what if I was doing this for God? Then I'll be like, oh, I should probably do a little bit better, But something I learned too is it's been, like I said, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, 6 months. That's crazy. Or I guess it's not fully through September yet, but 5, almost 6 months, and I've always had this fear of abandonment, that like people are just always going to leave me. Like, which I just had this feeling since like I was a kid. I'm so easy to leave. Like, oh yes, people are like just always going to leave, because it's like, oh well, people have done that before. And part of that was a little bit of emotional immaturity on my part. I've gotten better at being like, it's okay if people don't always talk to you. Like, it's not personal. That's its whole other thing. But I did have this like deep-seated fear of abandonment. And this could be a whole thing on its own. And I think I do want to talk about this and do like a little Bible study of this at some point soon. The whole abandonment. But even with my marriage, it's like, well, I did always have that fear, and I would have dreams about being abandoned. And then when it actually finally happened, and one of my biggest fears came true, it was like one person abandoned me, and almost immediately after, I had a flood of new loving people. And like, there's a small handful of people I already knew, but aside from that, I've probably like met at least 100 new people. And it's like one person left, and then God immediately surrounded me with so many other people and the community. And that's just been one of the biggest blessings of this in general. I think my salvation, is probably the biggest thing. If any of this, maybe if this didn't happen, maybe I would not have come back to God. And as hard and sucky as this situation has been, I wouldn't change it. And having and growing this relationship with God, I wouldn't change what happened. I just want to be with my Father. So I'm in a way happy that this happened. Not because I'm happy about a ruined or failed marriage or whatever, or having this like tough emotional thing happen. But God, and He is here, and I can't imagine life without Him now. Like I said, I have not had suicidal ideation at all, and since this has happened, and part of it is like I have a purpose. I know that God has plans for me, and pretty big ones apparently. So, man, that's a huge blessing too. There's been so many blessings, so many lessons. Don't take people for granted, and really, serve people. Just being less selfish in general. And obviously, I'm still working through these things. It's never going to be like, oh, I'm just, I never sin anymore. I'm just Mrs. Perfect. Like, I know that's never going to happen, but just being aware of things, I guess. Yeah, I feel like this is kind of starting to turn into I don't even know what anymore. I want to see if there's anything that I'm leaving out or forgetting. Bear with me for a moment. Oh, yes. So, one more thing that I'll say. I think it was the first time I went to a Sunday service at the church that I go to. And it was at the end after the service, and I was with my first friend that I mentioned that used to work with me, and then I went to her house, and then I went to the young adults night with her. She and her husband were there, and I sat with them, and then we went up to they have like a prayer, like prayer warriors at the end of each service, and you can go up and get prayer from them. And one of the main worship singers was there at the front, and they introduced me to her, and they were like, hey, like, can we pray for you? And the three of them prayed for me. And this was the first time I had ever met this woman. And in her prayer, she said that God wants you to know that all of those times that you felt alone, you were never alone, and He was always there. And I was like, you don't even know me, and you don't know what like I've been through emotionally, and just not even through this situation, but in middle school, in high school, there were so many times that I just felt literally like I had no friends, no one. And I don't even say that to complain, because like, I've been healthy. I've had a loving family, and things, we have issues in our family too. So it's not like our family was perfect, but things, looking back, it's like, dude, like what was I even so depressed about? But I think that, and maybe that's just the enemy swooping in and just getting in there, and ultimately for our destruction. But I can't even, countless times where I just felt so dark, so alone, didn't want to be alive anymore. I didn't want to be in the world. I just felt like I had no one, even though, it's like, oh, well, I know I have my parents, but like, it's not the same, or whatever, I just, and even, and I don't say this to like bag on anyone, but even in my own marriage, I thought, well, if I do ever get married, hopefully it'll be really good. And I ended up putting so much faith in a human, and there were so many times even through that where I just felt incredibly lonely. And that's another lesson, idolatry, even of good things like marriage, or like your husband or wife, or whatever it is, And I didn't even really know what idolatry was until recently too. So it's like the whole thing I mentioned about abandonment. There are so many times where God says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And I'm learning that now. And even looking back, being like, He was there with me this entire time, even if I wasn't with Him, I wasn't seeking Him, and I wasn't walking with Him. I wasn't looking for Him. I was running away. And the entire time, He was there patiently waiting for me for this year, I guess. And I like I said, I'll probably try to do another whole thing on that, just that, of abandonment. But I will say too, I don't always like feel like I can feel the Lord with me, but having those scriptures and just that knowing, and then having somebody tell me that worship leader in prayer telling me that God has always been with me even when I felt so alone. And I just like, my mind immediately went to like times in high school and middle school, just in general, where I'm like, he was always there. And that just gave me so much comfort. And I even still get those feelings now where it's like, I don't always feel God, but I know he's there. And even if he doesn't show me like himself, he shows me through the community that he's put around me, that he had put me in. He shows me that with the love of my parents and my friends that live in this house with us. And through his word, through the Bible, I will never leave you nor forsake you. He just is telling us, he loves us so much and he is always there, even when we don't believe it or we don't know or we don't feel it. And yeah, that's it where I'm at right now, God loves you so much. And people told me that even a year ago, if somebody was like, yeah, you're going to be like on fire for Jesus next year, I'd be like, what the heck? What are you talking about? There's no way. I'm a witch, bro. Like, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like, I never thought I would be here. Like, I'm so surprised that I've come back to Christianity, but I can remember as a little kid asking Jesus into my heart, and he's never left me. Even if I left him, he always has been and is and will be with me, and he is and will be with you too. I hope that this can help somebody. I hope that this can encourage somebody to at least start seeking God, and if he can do it for me, he can do it for you. And I feel like, on the outside, to other people, maybe it seems like, oh, like you would be a tough one to crack. But to me, it's like, well, I don't know. Like, I feel like I've always been longing for somewhere. And I've always had this feeling of like, I want to go home. Like, I don't feel like I really fit in here. And even just recently, I was like, maybe like I'm just homesick to be with my dad in heaven. Like, I'm not supposed to be here because I'm not really from here. I've always felt like that. I've always had this like I've always felt homesick, but I'm like, I don't even know where home is. Like, I don't feel homesick for Washington. I don't feel homesick for Irvine or wherever it is. I don't feel homesick for like another person. It's, I guess in a way, it's Jesus, Oh man, that's so crazy. But there's still hope for you. It's never too late. And even when Jesus was dying on the cross, there was a thief next to him, and he saved him while they were both dying on the cross. So it's not too late for you to accept Jesus into your heart. And if I would hope that you do it sooner than later when you're on your deathbed. But again, like I said at the beginning, I can't even fathom God's mercy and grace. And I'm not trying to sit here and be judgy about, your timing and God's timing for you and whatnot, because that's none of my business. I just want to encourage somebody that God's waiting for you, and he was waiting for me for quite some time, and he loves you and he's ready for you. He knocks at the door and he wants to come in and have that relationship with you. And it's the relationship, not the religion. You could go to church and not really have that relationship. And so if, this is your calling to start to seek the Lord, seek Jesus, try him out. If you're on the fence, that's where I was. I never really, I went as a kid, but I was like 8, I didn't really learn most of this stuff well, I didn't. This is my first time ever going through the Bible as an adult and learning really about God as an adult. And boy, there is so much, and I won't know. I'll never know everything, probably. Maybe in heaven. I don't know yet. But, anyways, I think that's it for now. Do you mind if I pray for you? I don't feel like I'm that good at praying, but I'm going to do it anyway. Heavenly Father, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, thank you so much for being able to make this video, and thank you for everyone who's watching this. I pray that you put your peace and comfort in each and every one of those people listening or watching to this, and that you would stir in their hearts to seek you and to at least give you a chance. And I pray that whatever is hurting them or bothering them is broken completely, and that they are able to find you and hear your voice this time. And thank you so much for everything that I've walked through so far, and thank you for being here with me for everything. And thank you for never giving up on me and never giving up to anyone who's listening to or watching this video. And again, I thank you so much that whoever's stayed till the end of this, I thank you so much for them listening and being open to this. And thank you so much for your sacrifice on the cross for all of us, each and every one of us, that you love us so much. I love you. And just thank you. Thank you so much for every day that we get to wake up and have another chance to meet you and learn about you. I pray that everyone watching this has a great rest of their day or night when they're seeing it. And it's in your name, Jesus, that I pray. Amen. Thank you so much. And thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope that it touches somebody. All right. Have a great one. Bye.